Wanderers, we're returning to Geisha for Remnant 2's second DLC, The Forgotten Kingdom, but is it any good, and should you come back for an entire new set of content? After going hands-on with the DLC for well over a dozen hours, we are here to set the record straight. My name is Codiak, this is Legacy Gaming, and let's dive in to The Forgotten Kingdom. Across both Remnant from the Ashes and Remnant 2, Geisha has always been our favorite world to dive into, mainly because there's so much story to really unpack when it comes to the pan. That and the intense Indiana Jones vibes you get as you open hidden chambers, dodge all manners of traps, and search for that next expertly hidden piece of loot. When the Forgotten Kingdom DLC was announced, there was really only one question on our mind. Could the Gunfire team expand Geisha in a way that makes the new parts of the world feel different enough? Initially, we were hoping that this second DLC would potentially bring in an entire new world to explore, but it's now clear the three planned DLCs are all aimed at significantly expanding the content that exists in Remnant 2's first three worlds. Roughly 5 months after the Awakened King drop, we went into this DLC with the same expectations: an expanded world, an entire new storyline, and dozens of secrets to uncover. From a scale perspective, things are about the same as the first DLC, maybe a tad bigger, with slightly more items and secrets than the Awakened King, and I can confidently say we've spent a combined 15 to 25 hours with the Forgotten Kingdom. Don't forget, we are finding all of the secret stuff without the use of guides or the community ahead of release, so your mileage may vary depending on how you approach the new content. To some, this might not be enough, but to true Remnant fans, we can definitely attest to the secrets, weapons, and boss fights this time around being really enjoyable. The story of the DLC is this: you'll venture through the ruins of the lost tribe of Geisha, piecing together its forgotten history as you attempt to quell the vengeful wrath of an ancient stone spirit named Lydusa and her living stone constructs. You'll venture into the land's once proud ziggurats, uncovering traces of torment, treachery, and death, all in an attempt to discover what happened to the once flourishing lost civilization. You'll encounter some new faces along the way, both friendly and unfriendly, as you unearth powerful new gear, and oh baby, some of this new gear is just sweet. When you load up the DLC, you'll experience another instance of the one-shot adventure mode introduced with the Awakened King, where you can choose to play through the entire Forgotten Kingdom storyline with exclusively the new maps. This is always your best chance to find secrets and get new loot, because once you re-roll your adventure mode, the other Geisha maps can rotate in, and we all know how tedious that can become when trying to tackle some of the game's most elaborate secrets. Overall, the new sections added to Geisha have definitely leveled up in terms of overall fidelity. Explorable waterfalls, massive rune structures, and a more vibrant take on the typical Geisha jungle palette was immediately noticeable. We definitely wouldn't say this DLC felt visually at the scale of the Awakened King DLC, and that's largely due to how dense and overgrown the jungle is, but the amount of secret passageways, puzzles, and traps this time around is staggering. Even with all of the new dungeons available and jungle locations to explore, Geisha still feels very much like Geisha, and that might not be enough for some players looking for a wildly different experience with the second DLC. The approach is almost identical to how the team tackled the Awakened King, and while we personally love that, you might find that the Forgotten King is too similar to the base game. To us, exploring the world genuinely felt like more Geisha goodness, and where things really started to come alive was with the introduction of a new enemy faction. Let me tell you, some of the new enemies are downright frustrating to deal with, and for the most part, that's on the middle difficulties in the game. As with all things Remnant, you learn to adjust and adapt, but learning an entire new set of enemy movesets was a fun challenge. The living stone constructs are a really interesting enemy set to deal with, just because they move and attack in ways that aren't like most other enemies currently in the game. For instance, the regular stone warriors, be it the stone spear-wielding variant or the ones with giant stone fists, will burrow into the ground to close the distance between you. This results in constantly feeling like you're being pressured when enemies are actively engaging you. Another enemy, the walking pot constructs, can also hit you out of nowhere with a variety of moves, such as their fire mortar ability or a random stream of projectiles that can even hit you through foliage. The real pains are these massive flying stone bird-like creatures, which are some of the most aggressive aerial enemies yet in Remnant, repeatedly slamming down at you, trying to catch you off guard, and really testing your ability to time a dodge. In numbers and at higher difficulties, these can absolutely get out of hand, and overall, these enemies and a few others really felt enjoyable to fight. An entire new swath of enemies certainly helps make the expansion to Yeisha feel less repetitive in a lot of areas, even if some of the tile sets feel like reused elements with slightly new aesthetics. As usual, what Livid and I most enjoyed about this DLC are all the new toys the developers give to the players, and this time around, that's the Invoker archetype. We've got a great video coming down the road breaking down how to unlock the class and where to find its secret armor. I won't go into all of that here, but what I will say is it's a really well-designed hybrid damage and support class aimed at really augmenting other skill-based archetypes. I've spent about 8 hours with the Invoker, leveling it up, getting a sense for its abilities and synergies with other archetypes, and if you've been longing for a skills-based loadout in Remnant 2, the Invoker will most definitely be part of that equation. Because of its ability to double your skill charges and then amplify not only the damage, but also the duration and utility of skills, there's few other archetypes that treat skills with such reverence. That, plus the Invoker skills, are just a joy to use. Out of the gate, the first ability, Way of Keula, deals insane damage and provides you with incredible long-term AoE that can clear out almost any engagement. Paired with something like the Ritualist, the archetype introduced in the Awakened King, and you've got a match made for sheer destruction. There's a lot more flex to this archetype than you might think, but we'll save that deep dive for another video. As expected, the DLC is filled with several new weapons, rings, and amulets that function well with not only the new archetype in mind, but also help expand several of Remnant 2's existing build directions, which should be a lot of fun for everyone out there who loves build crafting. Don't forget, items weren't just added to the new Yeisha maps. New drops and small bits of content have been added to all other worlds as well, so you never know when you're going to stumble onto something unique during your travels. In terms of bosses, well, of course we don't want to spoil too much here, but just like the Awakened King, there are 3 new bosses to sink your teeth into. Every single one of them was incredibly well designed and super fun to defeat. Once again, the Gunfire team proves they know how to design fun, engaging, and downright challenging encounters that not only test your physical skills, but your mental skills as well. The Stone Warden fight was an absolute standout encounter, and we'd love to know what you think of the fight once you've had a chance to try it yourself. Finally, let's talk about secrets, because once again, the developers absolutely spoil the Remnant player base to the point that I don't think any other game series will ever truly scratch the secret itch the way that Remnant 2 does. There are hidden paths, secret encounters, and mind-twisting puzzles all over the Forgotten Kingdom, so please take your time in each zone, truly exploring every little thing that looks out of place. Oftentimes you'll be rewarded for your efforts. Like we said in the intro, we didn't have the community around to help us solve all of the DLC's mysteries, but you better believe we'll have some helpful guides coming out soon to help you conquer the Forgotten Kingdom. So be sure to subscribe if you want to check out those videos in the near future. Ultimately, it all boils down to this. If you loved Remnant 2 and enjoyed the size and scale of the Awakened King, this DLC just makes a lot of sense to pick up for $10. If you previously purchased the Ultimate Edition of the game, you already have the Forgotten Kingdom coming your way, so one less decision you have to make. It's not an overly long DLC in terms of story, but the price tag is certainly justified when you factor in the encounters, copious amount of secrets, and huge free patch that just deployed, which changes up a ton of things about the game. Keep in mind, if you just bum rush the last boss and complain there's nothing else to do, then I'm sorry. As usual, I don't know what to tell you, because the true joy of this game, at least for us, comes from exploring the world, unlocking the secrets, and creating sick builds with all of the new loot and pushing into the hardest difficulties. As with most games we cover on the channel, we simply don't waste our time on things we don't love. So if you're here and wondering if Remnant 2's second DLC is worth picking up, the answer for us is a resounding yes. This continues to be one of our favorite games, period. And we want to continue to support Gunfire Games as they create new content and think about Remnant's future as a franchise. If you like supporting devs that create awesome stuff, this is a genuine no-brainer. Remnant 2's second DLC, The Forgotten Kingdom, is available starting April 23rd, 2024 for all major platforms. Friends, we are just getting started as usual, so if you want more Remnant 2 videos in your feed, You know what to do. Hit the thumbs up, consider subscribing, because it is still the single best way to help channels like ours reach new audiences. My name is Codiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.